Ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps. It is a podcast for the creative entrepreneur building a business for the long haul. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Chris Chu to the show. Chris is one of the most energetic and empathetic creators to break out in the YouTube space in recent memory. He took his channel at the beginning of 2020, made a couple of videos that went viral, including some from his incredible self-portrait series, and has since grown his channel to over 64,000 subscribers and is officially taking his channel full-time in 2021. Now, he's a low-key motivational speaker, a bona fide expert in film photography, the greatest intersection of NBA fan and artist, and secretly a former high school homework cheating ringleader. Is all of that true, Chris?
Oh, man. Yo, first of all, great intro, but I didn't know you were gonna include. I didn't know you were gonna include my criminal history into my intro. No, I'm very honored to be on this podcast, and to everyone listening, yes, I led one of the biggest cheating rings in my high school in freshman year just to make friends. So people do really dumb things to get attention when they're young, and I hope you guys learn from it or don't do it. Period. Crazy.
Well, hey man, you always include a good ass intro in your YouTube videos, so we felt like it was only fair to give one to you to bring up your podcast episode.
You guys nail intros for sure. I really like how much like detail you put into it. I like the intersection of the NBA fan too. I like to include like a lot of basketball references in my stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. You're one of them Bay Area boys.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, a Warriors fan, another one.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Chris. You and I have developed this relationship over the past year. It's been super cool being able to connect and just see you raging with success online and as an artist has just been so fun to see just sitting on the sidelines and watching it all happen. Before we kind of jump into questions, can you give a little backstory, just like how old you are, maybe a bit more about the Bay Area and that history and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm 25 years old, actually recently just turned 25. And I've been living in the Bay Area all my life, been born and raised here. And in terms of like the whole like career aspect, photography thing, photography is not as huge here as it is in LA or New York because those are like the industry titans. But in the Bay Area, it's all about computer science and finance, the engineering lifestyle. I'm actually kind of wearing a very San Francisco uniform right now with a Patagonia jacket. I should have just taken this off. Now somebody's going to roast me in the comment section. But yeah, I went to school to study to become a software engineer to like, get the six figures and the glass house. Like that was my life goal in high school. But, obviously things took a turn for the better, actually. And yeah, I do photography full-time, YouTube full-time, rather.
It's a great segue into, I still don't have a good finger on the pulse of your business. So I just wanted to ask, what is your business? Because I see you doing different things, obviously doing YouTube, exploding that channel. You shoot weddings, but you also photograph portraits. You do film photography. You're obviously dabbling in filmmaking. Like what has your business been the past 5 years? And what is it now? Just give us the whole like blueprint.
Oh, for sure. Like 5 years ago, that was 2016. 2016, I was mainly doing like graduation photos because I was in college. Grad photos, couple portrait sessions, some engagements. I didn't have too many friends getting engaged 5 years ago. And then like it started to progress into weddings because the church that I went to when I was at San Jose State, there were just like a bunch of people getting married. Like, and this, I think it was 2018. A lot of like mid to late, like 20-year-olds were getting married. And then some people like started to get to know me. And I was also serving at that church, like doing like photography and like social media for them. So some people started to like throw my name into like hats and into buckets saying like, oh, Chris does photos. And then I shot my first wedding July 2018, I believe. And I was the second shooter. I learned so much from my first shooter, the primary shooter. And I like kind of like took it from there and like started to become the primary shooter for the weddings after that. I've only like second shot for weddings, like I think 5 or 6 times after that. So like it was primarily like weddings. Like that was like my like cash cow. That was my money maker for 2 years. And then I always had this aspiration to get into commercial photography because I really like products. one of my life goals is to like shoot a lifestyle like thing for Nike or for like other things. Like there's plenty of people who have that life goal, that like milestone that they want to hit. But I recently jumped into the commercial world in March of 2020, last year, right when COVID hit. Because when COVID smacked down into the Bay Area and Bay Area lockdown, and then California went to lockdown, all weddings that I had in 2020 got rescheduled to this year. And they're probably, half of them are already rescheduling to next year, which is insane. And I was like, oh shoot, like I lost all my gigs like pretty much overnight within the span of 2 days. And then I think all of April I had nothing. It made me a little bit nervous, but that gave me time to start making YouTube videos. And then like, you know, God bless that I had like a couple of videos like pop off. And then the right people started to watch my videos, whether they were people who knew me or people who didn't know me. And then they worked for startups in the Bay Area. And there's like startups everywhere, like over here. Like if you throw a rock in any direction, like you're gonna like hit someone who wants to start a new app or something. So when like these people start to like see my content like on my Facebook, on my Instagram and all this stuff, they're like, oh, he can actually do video and his photos are good. So they start reaching out to me for like digital content, for like their social media campaigns and for like other campaigns. Wow. And it was like finally like the moment where I've been like telling people like, you should make an online presence for yourself. And they're like, nah. Like in 2018, they're like, no, don't need it. 2019, no, I don't need it. People are still coming in. And then when COVID hit, they're like, oh, we do need it. And I'm like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. So like in the summer of 2020, my business exploded commercially. And my biggest one was for a furniture startup company. And my old high school friend reached out to me because he is the senior operations manager there. So he said like, hey, like I really like the stuff that you're putting out. Like, do you do this and this and this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely do that. He threw my name in a bucket. The company chose me. And then from then on, it was like history. Like I'm primarily a commercial photographer now for startups. Not necessarily for like clothing lifestyle, which is like what I kind of want to do, but like these startups, like they vary from like what I just said, like furnitures to actual like software stuff. And like it's kind of weird how they want pictures of their product because you can't really take pictures of software, but they pay a lot for just headshots alone. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. Like I didn't know that there was like such a big budget for a simple headshot that took like money. 10 minutes at most. And it's all about lighting for sure, but it's not even that complicated versus like a wedding. Wedding is so much work, but headshots is like super simple, but the budget is like really high. So that's kind of like what I do now, but it's starting to slowly become a side thing as I make YouTube my full-time thing, because I do want to like, you know, have the full creative direction. I want to like hit the sponsors, the Squarespace gates, the heavenly gates, and you know, I just want to like be well off on that. Yeah.
What you said is really profound about having some sort of online presence when the world goes into, you know, the dark and you can't actually do any face-to-face interaction, whatever you're doing creatively or with business, and so seeing you succeed in a year and a lot of other people kind of doing the same because they built those up, I think it's calling that to attention for so many entrepreneurs, so many creative people, and being like, I just need to be more diversified in some sense. And we had that same kind of conversation with Ben Heish as well. Just super cool to see it in action with you.
And honestly, that's one of the biggest motivating factors behind starting Rally Caps for us, is because coming out of a crazy year like 2020, like everyone that's in our position either had to learn how to pivot in the midst of all of that, or already had maybe something in the works. And it's cool to be able to come out of that after everyone's a little more battle hardened and talk with everyone about, hey, what was your strategy? How did you kind of survive throughout all of that? How did you keep your business afloat? And now we're able to talk with everyone who has these new, fresh perspectives and kind of share those secrets or those tricks or those plans or whatever it is that they built to hopefully inspire other people to do the exact same thing. Chris, one of the I guess maybe consistent themes I've seen, at least in your YouTube channel, is your love for film, which is so cool because one, you're ridiculously good with it, and the videos you make of those trips are just incredible. And you made one kind of recently about a trip that you took to Yosemite with your parents, and I bet you know where I'm going with this, but man, cool. That one photo that you took with the X-Pan of the valley was I mean, insane. Like, absolutely insane. Did you expect it to turn out that cool? And when you saw that, like, developed and scanned and everything, did that just, like, reinforce your love for film on the
Oh
whole?
my gosh, absolutely. Like 100% across the board. Number one, definitely didn't expect it to look that good. I never really expect any of my film shots to look that good. And, I guess that's like kind of like part of the allure for it. Two, when I did see the final scan, my mind was blown because like I always ask for like the raw TIFF from my lab. So like it's unedited, not color graded. And it looked
Yeah.
like completely perfect when it like arrived in like a Dropbox folder. And this is yeah, that like what you just said, it adds to the whole excitement of like doing film. And like my whole passion for it started with a close friend of mine who's been shooting with like film for like I think 6 years now. And it wasn't until late 2019 when he took a photo of me like kind of like just like in my own element. I wasn't really paying attention to anything, but the exposure, like we all talk about it, the dynamic range, the exposure latitude, it was insane. Like he got the clouds perfectly exposed, the sky perfectly exposed, I'm perfectly exposed, the shadow perfectly exposed. I'm like, how did you get that like straight out of the box? It's like, oh, like it's this and that, like this component. And then like when I looked more into it, then I found like the other film photographers like Willem, Joe, Corey, and I was like, oh, this is like really fun, really lo-fi stuff. But what I didn't see in the film YouTuber space was kind of like a concentration on composition, because I think like during like the spike of interest in film, like Porsche 400 was like mega hyped, Porsche 800 was like second, and then like so on and so forth. And then like I think composition got a little like kind of slipped out in some way, shape, or form, because people just start to take pictures of like random things. Like I think it's like good that people are exploring their creativity in their own way, but when you only see like pictures of like fire hydrants and rolled up trash on the ground and like a coffee cup like on like a pile of dirt, it's like like that I don't know if like that was intentional or if you just shot that because Instagram really likes it, or like like, so I wanted to like kind of like bring it back, like hey, like composition like does matter. It's not all about technique like ever. I think like people should have a foundation but then explore out of that, branch off. So that's kind of like what I saw missing sort of in the film photography world. And it's just so fun. It's such a nice little like, I'm sure both of you can attest to this. It's such a nice change up from like our regular paid work, right? It's so awesome to just
100%.
go out, shoot something, not be able to see it, and then like 2 days to like 7 days later, you get to see it, you're like, oh shoot, this is pretty nice. It's so refreshing.
Yep.
It's really countercultural, honestly, because we're so instant gratification. Giving the delayed gratification in an art form is so foreign to us who grew up in an era where all of the art that you make, all the things that you make, all the creative endeavors that you have are all instantaneous. You post the video, it gets the views. You post the Instagram photo, you get the likes. And so I think that delayed part helps you slow down and care so much more about what you do. But something I'm even picking up in what you're saying, and it's consistent in a lot of the guests we've already had and seeing people be successful, is, and this is especially, what you said is especially very similar to what Daniel was saying a lot. Daniel Inskeep was saying a lot with his new finance channel. It's just like seeing gaps in a market and filling those gaps, and seeing what people are doing consistently and copying each other, and then just taking a different angle and kind of betting on something that's a little bit different so that people go, and weirdly enough, I kind of see that similarly, like in the investing world, like we're really kind of getting into investing recently and getting into stocks, and that's a whole different subject, but it's kind of the same idea of investing and investing yourself creatively. A lot of successful investors are always like, 2 steps ahead of the curve and seeing like what's on the horizon, what company is going to be the next big thing, what thing should I be investing in with my money. And I think it's very similar creatively, where you see that gap, you see that open opportunity, and you invest in it by making something, you invest in it by doing something. And then all of a sudden you're kind of on the leading edge of that new topic, and you're kind of considered a voice of what's the word I'm looking for? A voice of leadership.
Right.
I don't know. Like you're the leading the lines. You're leading the charge in that space. Then, and I see that with you for sure. With a bunch of different things, and it's cool to hear you say that, because it's just fulfilling that idea that I had about it, that you are thinking intentionally about these things.
Did you guys start off imitating someone and then like branch off from there, or did you guys like kind of like already know what kind of style you like to shoot in, or kind of like the person that you want to be like when you started out?
It's a great question.
Man.
Yeah, our first guest, Benj Heish, I was like huge Benj Heish fanboy when I started in photography. And so, yes, I was like completely trying to replicate everything he was doing. I was trying to, like, once I bought Visco presets.
Oh yeah.
Film emulation presets. I was like, game over. Like, I brought it in Lightroom.
Yeah.
I clicked one. I like clicked it and saw it, and I was just like, all right, cool. I'm Benj Heish now. And it's cringy to look back, 8 years, 9 years at that work, and just like, man, you knew nothing. And I was even saying to my friends, like, you go through that phase of being new, but like having enough gear or having enough experience already, and you start complaining about like, why won't people pay me more? Like, my stuff is just as good as this person. What do you mean? Like, look at it. It's so similar. Yeah, I think a lot of creatives do that. I think a lot of young entrepreneurs do that, where they're playing that comparison game, and it's just a complete lack of self-awareness. And so what I love teaching is just like, humble yourself, first of all, and have like a true, clear understanding of the market around you before you start having those thoughts of, I'm worth more than that. Because the truth is, the market dictates what you're worth. You don't, and your head doesn't. What people are willing to pay is what you are worth. And so you need to just be gripped with that reality when you experience it. So that's kind of what I learned in that process. And then it felt like once I started making more YouTube videos and like posting my own creative portraiture online and doing things differently, that's when I started to realize like, oh, okay, maybe some people have done these things. Maybe people have shot with a tilt shift lens or done a double exposure. And I know we're talking photography heavy talk, but basically in broader terms, just like people have done these specific techniques, but what can I do that's just a little bit different than that, and what variable can I add to it that's going to make it stand out and be different than everything else they've already seen.
Yeah, for me, Nirav Patel was the first person to really inspire me to go out and just take portraiture more seriously. I think it was back in like my senior year of college, like 2016, 2017. I just got a Canon 5D Mark III and like my first prime lens. I was like, okay, it's time. Like, let's do this. And all I was doing was just like, playing with light and shadows and really just kind of trying to understand what he does to make his images so incredibly like alluring. I mean, there's just like this magnetism that crazy. Everything he makes has. It's really impressive stuff. And that was like, that's the stuff that even to this day still like really, really grounds me. And it's like satisfying on a level that you can't quite explain. But I mean, he's on another level. He's incredible. Yeah,
both Nirav and Benj are like really, really good. I was also inspired by the Visco wave. What was it, like 2012, 2013, something like that? And then like after that, I was inspired by the hype beast photographers of Instagram. Orange and teal, high contrast, crazy clarity, all this other stuff. And then always shooting vertical. That was always shooting vertical. I look back in my archives. I don't have a single horizontal photo. It's so frustrating to see that because I want to like, show people like my past work, but I'm like, why did I shoot all these in it's because it has the most Instagram real estate. That's why I shot in vertical. So that was like, those were a couple of the phases that I went through.
I feel like that could be a good t-shirt, Instagram real estate with the air quotes around it.
Yeah.
That'd be a good little.
4x5. Yeah, I mean, because of that, like, how has that taught you like the sense of timelessness in your work and in your business? How do you feel about the approach that you do now? Does that make you swing the pendulum completely over to the other side, where it's like, I want to run my business and be an artist like way more conservatively now? Or do you still like jumping on trends here and there?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think in my own personal life outside of photography, I've had like a bad habit of overcorrecting. Like if I like went one way and I'm like, oh shoot, like this isn't it. It has to be completely the opposite way. That is the correct way. I've had a bad habit of doing that, but like right now I'm just trying to find balance in my life, you know? So with the whole like photography thing, I think I like to keep an eye on what people like, but staying true to myself, because I think what I see most often in the overcorrection of like not following trends is just like being unapologetically yourself, which is like not bad, of course, but the unhealthy extreme side that I've seen other people is they build up this like ivory tower where they're like, oh, this is me. If you don't get it, then it must be a problem with you, kind of thing. And I think when that overcorrection happens, I think there's like a lack of connection there, because with our art, like all three of us, like the whole point of it is to like communicate and connect with people, with our clients for sure, with like our audience, and like does it even connect with like our loved ones, kind of thing. Like, are we illustrating / communicating what we want to tell, what story we want to tell? And doing the whole trend thing, you're telling someone else's story, first of all. Like if I'm gonna be like a hype beast, trends heavy like photographer, that's telling someone else's story. And then like if I like overcorrect to the other side, like I'm gonna be only telling my story. If you don't get it, then whatever, like that's your problem, kind of thing. Like you just don't have artistic like taste or whatever. So like I'm like more, I want to believe that I'm more in the middle. But the whole like timelessness thing, I don't know if my work is like necessarily timeless. I don't know if I would even describe it. It's kind of, I think it's just like hard for any person to describe their own craft in like a very like elegant or concise way. But I think I'm definitely more technically inclined, composition heavy in my photography. Like I focus more on that than the actual like color / edit / thing. The latest trend that like I've seen is oh man, this might be like a little outdated, but there was like a little short stint where like people took shots of like completely like out of focus, like shots, like they focus more on the background than the couple or something. It does look good when used sparingly, but I think like everybody did it for like a month maybe, or a month and a half, and like it slowly died down. I still incorporate it here and there because I think it's like, it's nice to just show the backdrop and like the couple kind of like in focus sort of thing. But I think that's the last thing that I hopped on, if my memory serves me correct. Yeah.
Dude, I love just the intentionality of how you approach like every part of the creative process. Like when you really, we want like a lot of this podcast to be business and entrepreneurial focused with artists, with creative people, but hearing you speak to that stuff first, sometimes I can feel like way too business, like what are the numbers, what are the analytics, you know, what kind of revenue are we driving, but without hearing what you're saying with connection of people, with your clients, with your loved ones. Like that is the heart of personally like what I do for sure. And it's having that reiterated over and over is so good to know that that is the base of what you do. And when that is covered, that's when you can see a lot more of the business and financial success, when you have a clear purpose like that. So I just wanted to commend you just kind of for naturally just letting that kind of overflow out of you, because it seems to be true of like everything you do.
Thank you. It definitely stems from my environment and my past mistakes outside of photography. So like two major factors that like really like helped me like lean into what makes me different. Tagline. It's whatchamacallit. The first thing that like really inspires me to like kind of like stick onto this is the whole Bay Area culture of kind of like failing to connect, because there's just everybody's on their phones in the Bay Area. Like it's like look in any direction, someone is on their phone. Even at dinner tables, that's one of the most rudest things I've experienced. Where like you're talking to someone, but they just like check their notification. They're like, like everybody's more connected, but they fail to connect with the person across from them, kind of thing. So like kind of just like witnessing that like out there in the wild, like in San Francisco, in San Jose, it's just like, yeah, you make like 180 grand a year. Yeah, you make like 250 grand a year, but like, are you connecting with anybody? Are you like even helping anybody like with that? Are you opening up your house, your glass house to like have like not dinner parties, but like just to eat with someone that you don't really know, or not 100% like similar to. So that's one thing. I love to connect to people because I see that, and I'm like, I don't want to be that. The other thing, and this is like the more like in line with like don't follow trends thing and like don't tell someone else's story, is like when I was a high school kid and a college kid, I was like girl crazy. So like I like wanted to like be in a relationship. I wanted to do all this other stuff, but like what I failed to do like in all of those like instances was like be myself. I always like my default strategy was to like be the guy that you think that they would like, and like I did that so often, and it was number one exhausting, but I didn't know it was exhausting. Number two, it's just that's just not healthy. It's not good. Like if I were to be somebody else and then they start dating me, like what happens then? Like am I supposed to keep that charade up kind of thing? I wasn't like two relationships, and like I was very much myself in both of them. But outside of that, when I was like like being girl crazy, it was dumb. Like just like chasing all of that and then like being someone who I wasn't. Those are the two experiences, the main two stories that like kind of like keep me grounded like in the middle. It's like don't always be chasing that kind of stuff, but always try to connect kind of thing.
Okay, Chris, I loved what you were just saying about the community piece. And I wanted to ask about your Discord server, because that's something that I don't see any other YouTuber photographers, especially, or filmmakers do. And I think that's such a unique component in like such a cool way for you to be able to connect with people on like a totally different level than just, you know, like responding to comments in the comment section or anything like that. What has that been like to have a server and to be able to interact with people more intentionally? And how do you see maybe Clubhouse with that? Because Clubhouse is almost like in a similar vein.
Yeah, that's a great question. The Discord server has been like super fun, honestly, and I was blessed to have great friends to help me set it up. They set it up without me even asking them. They greeted the first 200 people to join that Discord server. They came up with unique greetings for 200 people, and I'm like, I didn't even ask them to do that, so that was really nice. But to answer your question mainly, it's super cool because the YouTube comment section, there's not that much like back and forthness, because I feel like as a commenter, I guess, the YouTuber has to earn my comment. Like this video has to be that interesting to earn my comment. But on a Discord server, you could just like go back and forth because it's like just instant messaging. And like I talk to some of these people like about like their own work. They share their work, whether it's like film or digital, it doesn't really matter. We share photo books and all sort of stuff. And we also like goof around. Like during the GameStop short squeeze, everybody was like memeing about that. Like it was like its own Wall Street Bets, like a side channel. Like people were being like just throwing memes around, and it was like super fun because like I don't want my Discord server to take itself too seriously. We're like, oh, we're the elite, we're the best photographers in the internet. Like I definitely don't want to foster that type of community. Just have fun with it. And like I've answered some people's like business questions, like, oh, how should I price myself, or like, oh my gosh, Chris, like your story about charging $35 an hour like resonated with me because I charge $10 an hour right now. I'm like, that's not even minimum wage, dude. You gotta go higher than that. So it's super cool to like foster that because I just like teaching photography and having people come to me instead of me going to them. Oh, so much more like, relaxing, so much more effortless. And for Clubhouse, haven't tapped into it too much, but I see a lot of people like having fun on that. I heard it's very addicting. I've only shown up on one group talk, panel discussion type thing, but I can see like a high potential for Clubhouse. Have you guys like hopped on it already?
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, I could see it. It's addicting to a lot of people. I'm not addicted to it. I like it a lot, but it's definitely one of those things that gives me anxiety. It's like it's one of those places where I'm like, you get called to the stage. You have to say something profound. Like you have all those anxious feelings. You could hop in. Like one time I was over at my parents and I went upstairs and was just like on my phone for a hot second. And I opened the app and I saw like some New Zealand photographers talking in a room. And I was like, oh, that might be interesting to just listen to for a minute. And I went in the room, and as soon as I got in the room, they're like, oh, hey, Eric, what's up? And like brought me on stage, and then they're like asking me a ton of questions. And I was like, I can't do this right now. And my wife walked in the room, and like the kids were going nuts, and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I got called into the room. I couldn't say no. I did that. And I was like freaking out. And
Babe, I'm
I don't,
giving a
like,
TED talk.
It's,
Yeah, pretty
exactly.
much.
Like, I don't want to be roped into that when I'm like not planning to spend an entire hour doing something like that. And so for me, with an app like that, it almost feels like it needs to be on my terms. I don't want to ever, like, I'm so hesitant to join any room now because, like, if you have some sort of YouTube presence and you join a room with a dozen people, they might do that. Like, they might just call you to the stage, and then all of a sudden you have to, like, give a workshop. And it's like, I don't. And like, that's just me, tiny little me with a little YouTube channel. People like Mr. Beast and like enormous people with online presence. They're like, we literally can't go on the app. I can't go in any room because everybody just does that to me. You know, like they just bring me on and I don't want to talk. I just want to listen, you know? And so I saw last night, like Sarah Dietschy had like a Twitter room set up, and there were, I don't know, like 50 people in there, and I just clicked on it because I was interested. Same deal. I was like, I don't want to enter this because I don't want to spend the time. But it said, would you like to go in as a speaker or would you like to go in as a listener? Basically, like giving you the option. So it might be cool to see if Clubhouse will introduce that. But I don't know. I look at someone like Benj, who we already had on the podcast, and he's already got like 10,000 followers on there, and he's selling his presets and building his education brand and all that stuff. So I did an hour-long one yesterday, and it was really, really cool. But yeah, it has tons of potential, I think.
Yeah. I think the second coolest thing about Clubhouse or the Discord thing rather is giving my subscribers like monthly challenges, because I'm like, oh, like they learned the stuff, like how can I like help them apply it? So like each month I would give them a challenge and they would like share their photos, kind of thing. So that part has been really cool too.
One of your, I think it was one of your first videos, like when you were taking YouTube seriously, I think. It's December of 2019, you told your story of dropping out of college, what it meant for you as an Asian American, and you've found a lot of well-deserved success since then. What kind of perspective do you have now being on the other side of that quote-unquote success? And did that part of with your ethnicity and your culture influence other people like yourself? Like, did you get any DMs from other Asian Americans, or is like, I really resonated with that and what you talked about?
Oh
in that
yeah,
video?
that video definitely was like hard to make when I was filming it, because I didn't really know how first my parents were gonna react to it, because I didn't tell them that I was going to be making that video. And like, you know, like being Asian, one of the things that like is prevalent in our culture is to be quiet about failures, or be quiet about like very boat rocking decisions, because you never want to rock the boat. You never want to seem like you don't have it together, kind of thing. That's just like a cultural like norm for Asians, let alone like Chinese people. So yeah, like when I made that, it was very freeing. It definitely answered a lot of people's questions, especially like my friends who were like, does he have a degree? Like I never saw grad pictures and all this other stuff. Like I never saw any of this stuff, but he's back home now. So what happened? Yeah, I did get a lot of like personal messages, like from people that I knew, people that I definitely don't know, through like, you know, the ones who have like watched it on YouTube. I think it feels very good to be on the other side. It definitely is like validating / affirming that like what I'm doing is like greenlit, not only for me, but like greenlit for the things that I'm going to be doing. And other feelings that I have is like this like YouTube thing is not about me, kind of thing. Like, yeah, like I'm in front of the camera, I'm the one that's talking, I'm the one that's editing it, but I want to be the guy or one of the people who are, yeah, like what you guys said earlier, like leading the march for like other people behind us. I've had a lot of teachers like growing up, whether it was for like basketball or whether it was like in the classroom setting, that had like so much humility that they were like willing to admit that like, hey, like we're teaching you so that you can be better than us. We're not teaching you because we are better than you right now, and you'll never be better than us. So I always like express this like sentiment like in my YouTube stuff, that, or I try to at least, that I'm teaching you guys these things so that you could be better than me like one day. Like I want to be able to run into you, see your work, and I'm like, holy crap, like it wasn't that good in the past, but now it's spectacular now. And like, sure, you may have like a bigger YouTube audience than me like in the future, or sure, you may have like more Instagram followers than me in the future, but like for me, like that's a win. Like I don't care if like people pass me up from watching my stuff. I've had a lot of teachers in the past, like when I was growing up, whether that was like for basketball, for sports, or like in the formal classroom setting, where like they had enough humility to tell us, or to tell me that like, hey, we're teaching you these things so that you could one day be better than us. Like my basketball coach wanted all of us to be better than him when he was in high school. My teachers obviously want us to have like a better future or better like opportunities than they did. And that's like fantastic. And I try my best to always express this sentiment in my YouTube videos that, you know, like I may have like all this experience. Yeah, I may have all this knowledge right now, but I want like my audience to know that if they apply these things, they could like super expedite their process. They don't have to take 10 to 11 years like I did to get good. They could get good in a year or 2 years. But to have the humility to pass it on to somebody else, you know, like always pay it forward. Yeah, like if I met somebody on the street who like said, hey, I watched your content like a year ago, 2 years ago, and like here's where I'm at now, and they have like more followers than me or whatever, or like they make more money than me, or they have like more of a bigger online presence, then I'd be like, that's a win for me. Cause like that's awesome that you're doing well. It feels great that I'm not following this traditional path right now for like the typical like Asian American in California or the Bay Area, let alone. So it's nice to know that like my radical boat rocking decision is inspiring and helping other people.
So cool, man.
That's amazing. You've also talked about in some of your videos how photography is a point of connection for you and your dad, and went as far to mention that the Hasselblad 500 cm was the camera that was used to photograph his wedding, and he's always really admired that, which is so cool, and that's such a neat thing to have in common with your parent. My mom is actually the reason that I first picked up a camera like in middle school. She was always the one documenting everything going on in our family, and I just admired that, and I bought like a little Sony like Cybershot back in, you know, whenever it was, like I was 12. So it's just cool to like kind of, you know, relate to that parent-child relationship and how photography is kind of in there somehow too. Since talking about that on YouTube, have you and your dad been able to like play with that camera together at all? Have you shown him how to use it? Does he already have like this banger Instagram page now and he's just like shooting film all the time? Like what's he doing?
You know, that would be the hope, to have him have an Instagram banging like account, but unfortunately no, we haven't been able to like show the experience on the Hasselblad. I did show him the camera. I had him hold it. I'm like, hey, do you want to like take a picture of it? Do you want to like recreate like your anniversary photos with it? He's like, nah, it's okay. I'm like, oh man. And like that was the end of it. Like he never like held the camera. I offered it to him. He's like, no, it's okay. I shoot digitally now. Like that's past my age. I'm like, what do you mean? So no, there's no super cool story. No like touching like father-son moment. He literally just said like, nah, I'm good. And I'm like, oh.
That's hilarious. You like poured your heart out, and he's just like, meh.
You cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love that
My
he
mom
said,
was
I
like,
shoot
"Oh, that was so
digitally now.
nice."
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know, right? What a millennial.
So, man, this one, I'm not going to lie. This kind of brought like a tear to my eye when I first watched this video. You about a little over a year ago now, released a video called 24. And it was this, I mean, truly like beautiful reflection piece about your 24th birthday and also Kobe's very tragic passing. And the whole emphasis of the video was to talk about how important it is to appreciate life. One particular line that you said in that really stood out to us was, you're in the middle of what you wished for back then. How does that phrase kind of shape the way that you live your life now, whether that's personally or professionally?
Yeah, I think for myself and a lot of people who live in metropolitan, hustle and bustle cities, I think it's like very common to never really stop, reflect, and just be thankful for like what we have, because it's like, well, on to the next thing, on to the next task, on to the next milestone. And when I turned 24, I realized that I have not stopped to like be thankful that I'm actually doing photography as a full-time career, that I'm having a lot of fun, that I have opportunities to like not only photograph super cool things, but meet super cool people. I mean, like this is a great example of that. And in college, I wished for this type of life for so long. College was not very kind to me. especially mentally. I don't think college is very kind to people at all, especially in that department. So when I like left school, did this, I was like, all right, I got to put my head down, dig, scratch for like any sort of like income, scratch for like clients. And then like when I got my momentum, I was like, okay, now like what's next? Okay, now what's next? And then when I turned 24 and with Kobe's tragic passing and unfortunately my grandma passed away like 2 days before he did, it was kind of like a good reminder with a very like unfortunate setting, a good reminder to like appreciate life, you know? And I think a lot of people like fail, not like intentionally, but like accidentally fail in reflecting about these kind of things. And I'm so thankful that not only did I like have the courage to do this, but I'm thankful that like people believe in me, you know, that at least one person believed in me that helped me believe in myself, and that people are willing to pay for my services. People are willing to like ask me about questions, and that I'm just having so much fun in it. I don't think everybody can say that about their own line of work, which is unfortunate. But I am in the middle of like everything that I wished for. And for me to think that I don't have enough would be like an insult to like God, to like, to the people who have like blessed me. It would be like a spit in their face saying like, the things that you're giving me, yeah, that was good enough for 21-year-old me. But 24, 25-year-old me needs a house, needs this, needs that. That's like so wrong to think. So I like make sure that like, you know, I take a breather like every week saying like, all right, I pushed out 2 videos. Was I happy with it? Absolutely. A year ago, was I pushing out videos like this and having fun with it? Not really. So it's just good to always like stop and think like, dude, I'm in the middle of like this dream that I always wanted as a kid.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging for me to hear, man. Complete pivot and kind of just the end of all of this. I feel like we need to at least touch on kind of your emotions and feelings of what happened over the past year with going from 0 to 50,000 subscribers. You know, I've seen a lot of people try their hand at YouTube and fail at it in different ways, you know, whatever failing means to them, with you know, just having a goal of I want to post consistently and then it just never happens, or I'm not getting the kind of numbers I wanted, so I'm done, or not feeling fulfilled with the stuff that they're making and stop making stuff. And outside of, you know, like Eric, who goes from 0 to 1 million subscribers in 1 year, it just seems unattainable. Like what you have done from 0 to 50K. And I personally think, like from my perspective on the sidelines and looking at what you've done, I think a lot of it is that you're bringing value and educating people by giving them the opportunity to find economic success with a skill, and giving them a bunch of value with basically teaching lessons in every other video, but then also being hysterical, just being a very, very funny person and entertaining. So I think from an outsider's perspective, that's what I see. I see that, and consistency. You're consistently putting out educational, valuable information, and also just really entertaining people. And a lot of people say that's like the recipe to success on YouTube. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like there's any other component that took you on that journey and got you to where you are now?
Definitely. Oh man, I hope you guys.
This is where you could talk yourself up. It's cool.
Oh,
no, we're not
yeah.
cutting it out in post.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't cut
God.
things out in post.
Oh Jesus. It's very hard for me to talk myself up and like talk about myself in that way, in that light.
I am giving you full permission.
Oh God, my ancestors will kill me. It feels great. It feels really awesome to have this audience, these numbers, all this other stuff. It feels like super cool to inspire people to also, like, you know, not take myself seriously. I love that part of it because I do like to troll a little bit. I mean, like Eric made like a whole video of like every YouTuber in 2021. I'm like, that's the kind of trolling level that I want to reach. Just like someone who's like aware of the industry and like exploit that a little bit kind of thing. But I think at the whole like core of it, I'm like, I just want to be myself, you know? Like I don't want to like be all hyped up on the Peter McKinnon train that some people were doing, like the whole like what's up everybody, like everybody like did that for like a little bit. I'm like, ooh, these copycats are kind of cringy. And then the other things that like I really like to do is just teach, you know, like not only the composition stuff, which is like very valuable, but like also the business side. I think Eric, you did a great job in like kind of like pulling back the curtain on like how much money is like in this. Like not only it's not about the money, but like you're encouraging people with that. You encouraged me when I was like in 2018, November 2018 depression mode. Like I was like very much inspired by that video. I forgot when you exactly released that video, but that was like the feeling that I wanted to share with other people. And through like the business videos that I like put out, like that's kind of like my aim towards doing it, or that's kind of like my aim. Other than that, like I want to continue to not make this about myself, you know. I want to continue to like encourage people that like, hey, there's freedom over here. Like there's a way out over here. Like come over here, like this way. Encourage kids that like they can pursue art full time, that they can like be themselves and like not only like profit off of it, even though that's not like what it is at the end of the day, but like there's just mental freedom in that, you know. Yeah, being on the other side of it is crazy. Because, like, when I made that first video, the dropout video, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make it to 60,000 or 50,000 in a year. Like, that was never the goal. When I hit 10,000, I was like, people are watching this crap? Like, how is this possible? And, like, that self-portrait video, like, only came out of a place of, like, well, I have no gigs. Maybe other photographers don't have gigs. What can we work on? Maybe we can work on taking pictures of ourselves and posing ourselves so we can learn how to pose other people. And that just took off. I'm like, I don't get it. And then my most viral video, which is like only 2 minutes long, I'm like, I don't want to make self-portrait videos anymore. It's kind of like old. I'll just put one more in the tank. I made it like 2 minutes long. I didn't even talk. Blows up. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get this whole like YouTube algorithm thing. It's just like so volatile, so out of my control. So like, it is what it is. Like the numbers are out of my control. The only thing I can control is what I teach, how I teach it, and how much fun I'm going to have with it. So, yeah.
Boom.
That's it. That's a mic drop right there.
That's
I
the
love
sauce.
that. That's the
That's the sauce, yeah.
Chris. Chris, I think it's safe to say that you're basically the freaking man, and we appreciate so much that you've taken time to hang out with us today and talk with us. You just talked about yourself a lot. We're just going to ask you to do that a little bit more. Where can everyone find your incredible work?
You could find me on YouTube. You can just type my name, Chris Chew. Chew is spelled C-H-U, not C-H-E-W, that a lot of people have done. You could find me on Instagram at Who's Chris Chew, same spelling. And yeah, you could find me both there on YouTube and Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I don't have a Twitter because I feel like Twitter is like too crazy for me to be on. I don't ever want to be on that platform, so you can't find me there.
Wild West.
Yeah, it is the Wild West out there. So yeah, you can find me there. And thank you guys for having me on this podcast. I feel like this is, well, not I know this is like such a huge honor for me. And dude, Eric Floberg, like I'm on a podcast with Eric Floberg. 3 years ago, I watched this guy's 100K video. And me and my friends were gushing like, oh my God, Eric put out a new video. Did you see it? Tilt shift lens. Oh, he uses a Leica kind of thing. And then like now I'm able to like talk to him, text him. I'm like, like it's crazy. Like the internet is a fun place. The internet's a fun place. Sometimes.
Very, very cool. Sometimes. It's also the Wild West and you might die.
Yeah, you might die. Yeah.
Oh man. Too good. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on. I think people are going to find a ton of value in this episode. And I hope you guys learned a bunch. Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Peace, brother.